Colossians 2 real quick. And I know this is a familiar verse to everybody, because I know that you guys have all looked at this probably a lot. But I just want to point out something in here, in starting in verse 16. I know that you've probably have gone over this a bunch of times.
It's a good one,
Um,
though.
yeah, but I just want to point out one specific thing, and that is the timeline in it. And so Paul is making the argument here to the church of Colossae. He says to not let anybody judge you in meat or in drink or in the respect of a holy day or of a new moon or of the Sabbath days. So basically, you have everything covered there from weekly to monthly to annual. The holy days, some of them are annual. The new moon is monthly. The Sabbath days are weekly and every seventh or 49 years. But I just want to point out really quickly, ironically, our Sabbath keeping friends, they will actually say, see, don't let anybody judge me. I'm going to decide what meat I should have and drink. And I'm going to keep the new moons. I'm going to keep the Sabbath days. Don't judge me for keeping them. I can't even imagine a worse interpretation of that. It's the exact opposite of what the other arguments in the rest of the Bible are. I mean, it is literally ignoring the entire point of the argument here. But I really wanted to point out verse 17. These things, which is the meat, the drink, the holy day, the new moons, which is monthly, and the Sabbath days weekly, these things, notice that's not an end of a sentence there at 16, which are a shadow of things to come. Okay, so let's just consider this for a moment. Now, when you're outside and you see this big, beautiful tree on a sunny day, and if it's not high noon and directly over, but it's someplace slightly different, you're going to see that tree start to cast a shadow. Now, I can remember back when I was a kid, I think we all have moments like this when we were little, or maybe even now, when that sun is going down in the sunset and it's just about to go over the horizon, and you look and your shadow, when you're walking and you see your shadow is like 50 feet long because of the angle, and you're kind of like, look how tall I am. I can remember doing that as a little kid. Look how tall I am. But the point is here, I want you to imagine that the cross of Christ is the tree. And for for the things prior to the cross to be a shadow, that means the light is coming from on the other side of the cross. In other words, if you're looking at a chronological chart, the light would be coming from the right side, shining at the cross, and then the shadow would be going into the Old Testament on the ground. So you could, if you're in the Old Testament, you kind of look down and you realize you're in this shadow and it kind of has a shape to it. And you're looking around and you kind of see the shape of the cross. You see a shape of Jesus. And you're going to look at this thing and go, I kind of think I know what these festivals are pointing to. I think I kind of know what this rest time is pointing to. I think there's a rest coming for the people of God, as Joshua stated, as the writer of Hebrews says in Hebrews 4. I think I kind of understand. This isn't it. This is the ground. It's a shadow. It's just the kind of shape of something that's coming. And you keep looking at the shadow, trying to figure this thing out. And finally, eventually, one day, you bump into the cross. Chronologically speaking, you've got to the cross. Now, you can turn around and still see the shadow. But as time moves on, you can no longer be in the shadow. Because once you get into the other time of Christ, you are now out of the shadow and into the light of the glorious kingdom of Jesus. So when he says that these things are a shadow, I want you to notice that you can wish with all your heart to keep the old covenant. You can't, because you're about 2,000 years too late. They're on the other side of the cross. The shadow of things to come, as it says right here in Colossians chapter 2, the other half of the sentence is, but the body is of Christ. So that's the line of demarcation there. The cross is it. And the shadow only goes one way. It don't go two ways. That's not how shadows work.
Incredible.
So you can't keep the Sabbath if you wanted to. You can set aside a Saturday if you want and say, I'm not going to do any work. That's fine, but you aren't keeping the Sabbath. You're 2,000 years too late. You can't. It's not in place anymore. I was going to say, and some people, and I know I've talked to people that say, but I feel really good when I set a day apart. It really does me good. Great. Then do it. But it's not the Sabbath. You're not keeping the Sabbath. You can't. You're 2,000 years too late. You say, well, I like setting aside a Saturday. Then Fantastic. We should all set aside time aside to rest and to meditate on the Lord. But you're not in any good favors. You're not impressing God at all. Your righteousness is like filthy rags. You don't impress him at all. But it's probably good for you to take some time to rest, but that's not the Sabbath. Keep these doctrines in line. You're 2,000 years too late on the wrong side of the cross.